Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Market Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, October 14th. Wow, well, what a big day. Theme of the day, big breath day, big overall rally day. Closed right around the highs of the day. Very, very strong participation. Semis, builders, materials, bigger technology, and the transportation is very strong. So we'll go through some of these movers. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. You could read through this on your own. And if the video is a little bit blurry, it's just because YouTube takes a little while to render the version of the video. So as always, we'll go through a couple macro themes and for the first couple of minutes, and then we'll talk about some of the single stack movers. I got some nice feedback from yesterday's video, so I've got a whole bunch of different tickers today, and probably not going to be able to go over all the movers today because there was just a lot of them, and it's I will say this too before we get into the S&P chart. It's just nice to see so many areas of the market participate. I even sent out I've been putting out a couple charts or tweets this week just saying, hey, well, this doesn't look particularly good. For example, the semiconductors and some of the industrials. I tweeted out Carrier last night, which recovered quite well. So I don't know, maybe I'm jinxing these things to the upside. I was talking about how poor the semiconductors looked the other day. And, snapback rally. So we'll talk about them too. So I don't know. I'll keep doing that. Whenever I see something I don't like, I'll tweet it out because it seems like I'm marking the low in in those areas. So let's go through the S&P charts. Just something to note. Well, I'll keep doing that. S&P. Very nice to see, where this closed yesterday. We had a bullish engulfing candle yesterday for S&P futures. And notice where we got to today, all the way from nice move inside value to, moving just throughout the course of the day. And we actually closed back above the 50-day moving average. Just did not think that was going to happen in one day. Thought it was going to be more of, I think what I said yesterday was baby steps in some things, but not today. S&P futures up almost 1.9% for the day. I think they said that's the biggest close for the S&P in something like 7 months. So at least that's what I heard. So here's the day. Just basically starting the day up and just grinding. Throughout the session. We went through. I did think that we would see a little bit of resistance there at the top of value. Nope. We managed to get all the way through that. So very impressive. There's a few upside levels to kind of continue to watch, but I'm not going to be too negative about this, or I'm not going to try to come up with negatives. It's positive. Is it a little bit overbought? In the short term, you can look at that RSI on the bottom of your screen. It's an 87. So one of the things I like to draw scenarios of things that could happen, just so that you kind of think about different scenarios. But one of the things that could happen, of course, is we continue to, could continue to rally and get up to some of these levels up here, or we could also check back to the top of value, and then do one of these, right? But that doesn't, and then of course the third scenario is that we just, we kind of come in after being, pretty overbought. Look at what we did last week, by the way, right? We got above value a little bit. We checked back, and then it was just kind of, chop. So be mindful of that. Tomorrow is also monthly option expiration. So, I kind of think anything could happen. I did a lot of taking profits today into today's strength. I mean, that's usually what I do when we have a gap up, which is what we had this morning too. So, that was my plan for the day, and day traded a couple things. NASDAQ also looks like there's a virgin point of control that we're going to be very close to. It looks like we did take it out. So we did take it out right at the end of the day. All right. So also really nice rally there in NASDAQ. Also, you're hitting some resistance here. So not, not as strong as the S&P in terms of the technical picture. The performance for the day was stellar, up 2%. So again, it's tough to be really judgmental after a 2% day to say, be careful of this. But yeah, I mean, I would watch these two levels of resistance: the 50-day moving average and the bottom of value. And that would be fine too. I think if we chopped a little bit and let some names kind of catch up. I think many of yesterday's names that we talked about, not all, but some of them, particularly in the software area, they were a little bit choppy today. After a huge day yesterday, right? So like the cyber names, for example, right? Some of them actually, finished either flat or down on the day, but just kind of ran out of steam a little bit. MDB was a big day. Had a big day yesterday. Was started off the day quite positive, but actually finished down on the day. Right. So again, let these things kind of digest a little bit, and they might charge up and go again. Right. Bill was another one too, kind of a little bit of a top, still up 2% for the day. Datadog, another one, finished down on the day, but still, breakout and probably got a little bit ahead of itself. All right, so that's that group. Small caps, exploring now the upper range. So we'll see if we get the breakout in IWM. This is good to start a push to the top of value, and we'll see if we can get a couple days now of of a move out of value. So another thing to note before, as we kind of conclude the macro review, and one final thing here about the macro review, is that bonds were not a factor again today. They were up another 40 basis points for bond futures. So rally all week long so far, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in bond futures. So very nice week, almost up 3% now in some of the longer dated bond instruments. Very, very impressive. But yes, we talked a little bit in yesterday's video about, hey, getting through a tough time in September in terms of seasonality, tougher time of the year. First couple weeks of October are difficult too, right? So we're just about through that. We just have to get through options expiration. And, I don't want to say that you're going to get the all clear pass, because, one of the things that hopefully you learned a little bit over the last couple weeks or last month or so is that, being disciplined, that should be a lesson that you take forward. Even though if the market continues to rally and to have trending days like today, you still want to be super disciplined, right? And focus on the names that are have the momentum, right? So make sure that you take away some lessons. It definitely helps to write some things down, so that you don't go back to you forget about what you learn, because the price action will kind of trick you sometimes. So that's my kind of thought about that, as we get into a little bit of a better seasonal period. Again, it's just one factor, one piece of the puzzle. You can't hang your hat on any of these things. You kind of want to use a lot of these factors together to come up with a viewpoint. All right, so that's the macro review, and let's talk about a couple things. I want to talk about some earnings, but I'm going to wait to do that just for a second. So let's talk about some of the sector performers. Right? And by the way, the VIX where is the VIX now? Underneath 17? That happened quick, huh? Look at the chart of the VIX. Lowest level in the VIX since the end of August, it looks like. Beginning of September. Right? So all the way back to where we were. All right, so let's go over some of those areas that really outperform. Let's start with the semiconductors. Right? So I mentioned that I said this was not looking good just 2 days ago. Had an inside day yesterday, which wasn't very convincing, and then we had Taiwan Semiconductor earnings, and just a little bit of some good news got this group to move 3%, and it did. The 200-day moving average, which some people just strictly trade off that 200-day moving average, worked pretty well if you did that. Right? You had your retest, right? A tiny bit of a higher low here, and strong. And if you look at some of the names that performed well, and we added a few of these names in the TTG trend portfolio yesterday, but AMD had some nice continuation. That's up to 112. Nvidia had a nice day today, finally. Back above the 50-day moving average and looks pretty good. Now, there's some short-term stuff that it has to get through. There's one VPOC there. There's another one up here at 221. But overall, this looks like a pretty good chart. First candle above the 50-day moving average. First one inside value. AMBA, this is another one that we added in the TTG trend portfolio yesterday. Monster move, almost up 10% today. Again, a good example of, the personality changing completely after their earnings results in this stock, completely changing how the stock behaves. We're going to get back to that in just a second, right? Because we are now in earnings season, and those are some takeaways that I think that you may want to focus on for this earnings cycle. All right, so that's the semiconductors. A bunch of other names, did pretty well. The whole group. Right, here's the performance, and this, I don't think this is in here. I did go long in my trading account some Marvell. Right, this is another name that didn't report earnings but had good guidance, and has been sitting back here. Right, and this is a name that I want to try to hold on to for a little while. Nice performance there. ASML was another name that acted very well, up about 4.6% for the day. Still below the 50-day moving average, but hell of a bounce today. All right, and then a few other groups. Let's talk about the transports for a minute. I love the chart. I've talked about the transports chart a couple times. I do have a trade on. I have a call spread on for November, 255, 265 call spread. But I love that chart. Right, it looks really good. It popped a bit over the 200-day moving average, sat back and back up. And these rails, which have really not been talked about a lot, but really strong. Right, if you look at UNP, NSC. Wait for these to adjust here for a second. But I think I like this chart, and we talked about this name in the weekend video. But Norfolk Southern, really strong, and CSX too. So the whole group, right? Also strong. We'll have some resistance up there at 33.67. That name reports next week. So nice to see that. The home builders, right? Another group that's been so quiet. Right, got some nice movement today. One of the best performing groups for the day, up 2.7%. Lennar was strong. Floor and Decor is another name. Home building, not so much a home builder. Did not get through. Kind of hit a little bit of resistance at 125. Restoration Hardware, name that you probably haven't been looking at for a while, but set up, did make a move outside of value. So nice to see this group get going. And then, of course, if you want to look at some of the other names, really like this move in Home Depot today. It tried to get outside of value earlier in the week, right around this 340 level, and then popped outside of value today. I've been long Lowe's, so I took a profit target in Lowe's today. Out to new highs there in Lowe's. And I mentioned the lumber names too. Actually, LPX was down on the day, so no continuation there. But they've been strong names that have had to do with lumber. So we talked about the semis. We talked about transports. We talked about some of the home builders. The industrial names looked pretty good too. Dover. I like this move inside value. Also, some of the material names. I took a position today in Albemarle. First candle inside value, as well as over the 50-day moving average. Right, and the other lithium names have been doing better. Although LAC took a break today, LTHM has been doing well as well. That is a new closing high for this year, it looks like, even though just up fractionally. So it seems like that group kind of rotates around a little bit. A few other names that just caught my eye for the day, but yeah, some of the industrials look very good. CPRT, right? So some of the auto names looked pretty good today. Some of the name, like, this isn't an auto name, but it's a name that sells cars. I know some other names have been strong, like an AutoZone. The private equity names have been strong. Look at this Apollo go. We looked at this name the other day. Broke out 63 up to 67. I'm still watching Blackstone. This is a name that's in the TTG trend portfolio. This is going to report next week, so it'll be interesting to see how it reports. But you got a nice dip in this name, and you're now just back above the 50-day moving average and inside value. So that's a name I think to keep an eye on. I traded a little bit of Netflix today. It did make the turn, just didn't have a lot of momentum to it. So I abandoned that trade. Reminder that Netflix reports next week. And to go over the trades that I did today, I talked about FCX yesterday. That worked very well, up about 4% for the day. Was up higher. So what do I do when I get that type of a move? I take some profits. I actually took a profit target pre-market at 36.60. I took another one at 37.60. So I'm a position that I added yesterday. I got out of my Affirm trade. Salesforce took early profits in this one. Wow, it did close at 290. A couple traders in the trading room were saying, "Hey, this thing's going to get to 290." I got out of it a little bit sooner than that, but we saw a lot of early call activity in Salesforce. So nice carry through for Salesforce. I am long that name and also in the TTG trend portfolio too. MSI, I took profits on that one. This just got to where I wanted it to get very quickly, which is the top of value. Upstart, we're going to talk about that name in just a second. Cliffs didn't work for me today. I got out of that trade for a small loss. And that's it. I think that's good enough to cover in terms of names. So yes, I want to talk a little bit about a game plan for going forward. So obviously we've just entered earnings season. Big move by BAC, by the way, closed on the highs today, and a new high for the stock. So what I wanted to kind of mention here for just 2 minutes is, as we start to get through earnings season, and we are going to be watching to see how names report. So really, what and this is not just this last quarter, obviously, but there was a lot of trading opportunities that came up from names that gapped up on earnings and just kept going, right? So I talked a little bit about this. I was on Benzinga earlier today at their around lunchtime today, but just talking about you don't have to put on trades. You don't have to anticipate what these names are going to do for earnings. I'll give you an example. Right, so Upstart, which is a name I'm long in the TTG trend portfolio. I did take profits in this today in my trading account, but look at where the move came from. Right, I mean this is a $380 stock now, so it's doubled since the earnings gap. Right, very, very impressive, more than doubled. So double would be 320. This is up to 380. All right, so this is what we're going to want to pay attention to. Now, you're going to hear, sometimes people will say, "Oh, I missed it," right? After earnings, even the day after earnings. Look at what this thing has done. So this is what we're going to be concentrating at TTG, the Tribeca Trade Group, on trading opportunities like this. Of course, this is a perfect scenario, right? Gapped up and really never stopped. Gave us a little bit of a pullback. I added stock in here when this happened in my trading account and got the last run. So very impressive. And, You know, AMBA was another one that I mentioned too, right? So if it is a name, particularly growth name, momentum type name, um, this completely changed its personality, right, where it was. So it's important to recognize too a couple things with this. These names did not break out before earnings. So we're going to be kind of looking for this. Now, I'll give you an example, right? So Netflix has already broken out, right? They report next week. I don't know. This is not the same situation. And again, it's going to depend on the results too. Obviously, they're going to have some really good results. Now the chart is already broken out. So both Upstart and AMBA and many other names that we focused on over the last quarter, they were more in kind of a consolidation type zone or a range bound zone. I don't know if Upstart was, but AMBA and certainly a number of other names. So really, that's what we're going to be looking for, is being very observant, waiting for these names, being objective to see what names are going to do it, and then stick with the leaders and just basically play follow the leader with some of these names. Because if I look at the last quarter, since many of these names reported, a lot of my gains from this quarter have come from names that had really good earnings and just followed through beautifully, right? We talked a little bit about this name too in the beginning of the video, even though it finished down on the day. But still, MDB was a name, and I think this still has more to possibly go in this name. But this one just reported in here. But this was a big breakout on that day, but did give some trading opportunities. And again, those trading opportunities may not be done. So really, that's a thing that I think is important to concentrate on. And we're going to be going through those. And I think my earnings list from last quarter was about 45 names. There were so many names that did this. So I'm looking forward to earnings. We'll be playing some earnings trades here and there, but really it's going to be names that act very well and are going to see volume there afterwards. Right, big volume afterwards. So I look forward to it, and I think it's going to be a very interesting quarter. It may not line up exactly the same way as what we saw last quarter, but there's going to be some surprises, right? And I think that there's going to be some good trading opportunities off of those surprises. All right, guys. So I'll leave it there, and I think there's going to be some fun opportunities going forward. So I'll leave it there, guys. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.